Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on Skyrim's most evil choices you can make explained. First up is killing a dog who trusted you. Kill Barbas. Outside Falkreath, you'll encounter a talking dog named Barbas, who needs an escort back to his master, the Daedric Prince Clavicus Vile. This dog is an immortal Daedric entity who serves as Vile's companion and voice of reason. He's been separated from his master and asked for your help getting home. Notably, before you even meet Clavicus Vile, Barbas explicitly warns you not to accept any deals from his master because they have a tendency to backfire catastrophically on mortals. He's trying to protect you from making a terrible decision. The quest requires you to retrieve the rueful axe from Rimerock Burrow, which is infested with vampires. Barbas accompanies you through this vampire-filled nightmare, fighting alongside you and generally being helpful despite his tendency to bark constantly and absolutely demolish any stealth approach you might have planned. When you return with the axe, Clavicus Vile presents you with a choice. You can hand over the axe and reunite Barbas with his master, receiving the Mask of Clavicus Vile as a reward. Or you can use the rueful axe to kill Barbas and keep the weapon for yourself. Let's examine what you're actually getting if you choose murder. The rueful axe weighs 10 pounds and does 22 base damage. It has no enchantment. It's a completely unremarkable battle axe that you could find better versions of in literally any bandit camp. Meanwhile, the Mask of Clavicus Vile gives you better prices, improves your speech, and regenerates magicka faster. The good reward is objectively superior to the evil reward in every measurable way. You are choosing the worse option, but the numbers don't capture the full depravity here. This is a dog who helped you fight vampires, a dog who warned you about his master's treachery, a dog who trusted you to bring him home safely, and your response to his loyalty and assistance is just to murder him with an axe because he barked too much during the dungeon crawl. Truly inspiring. Congratulations. You killed an immortal being's best friend for a weapon that's worse than the one you get for not being a monster. Next up is becoming a cannibal. In Markarth's Hall of the Dead, you'll find Brother Verulus, a priest of Arkay, who has noticed something disturbing. Corpses in the hall have been desecrated, violated in ways that suggest ritualistic behavior. He's investigating these crimes because protecting the sanctity of the dead is literally his job as a priest of the god of life and death. Inside the hall, you'll encounter Iola, a priestess of the Daedric Prince Namira, who reveals that she and her cult have been eating the corpses stored in the Hall of the Dead. She offers you the quest The Taste of Death, which requires you to help her cult prepare for a proper feast. The first task is straightforward. Clear Reachcliff Cave of Draugr, so the cannibals have a suitable location for their ritual meal. This is the last moment where you're doing something that could theoretically be justified as pest control. Once the cave is cleared, Iola asks you to lure Brother Verulus to the cave under false pretenses so the cult can feast on his flesh in the name of Namira. You return to the priest who trusted you to help him solve the desecration mystery, convince him to follow you to a remote cave, and deliver him directly to the people committing the crimes he was investigating. Brother Verulus is a priest of Arkay. His entire purpose is to protect the dignity of the dead and ensure proper burial rites. He's been trying to stop the exact people you're now working for. When you bring him to Reachcliff Cave, the cannibals trap him, and you're given the blade of sacrifice to kill him yourself. After you murder the defenseless priest, the cult gathers around his corpse for a feast. And here's where it gets truly special. The game doesn't let you stand there and watch. You participate. The screen shows you, the Dragonborn, leaning down and eating human flesh from Brother Verulus's body. Your reward for this is the Ring of Namira, which provides 50 extra stamina and regenerates your health and stamina when you feed on corpses. The ring is specifically designed to encourage more cannibalism. You didn't just help cannibals. You didn't just murder an innocent priest investigating crimes. You became a cannibal yourself and received jewelry that rewards you for continuing to eat people. Let that marinate for a second. You joined a cult of corpse eaters who were already desecrating the dead, murdered the one person trying to stop them, ate him, and then got a ring that makes eating more people beneficial to your stats. Namira is the Daedric prince associated with all things repulsive and loathsome, which is frankly appropriate given what you've become. Moving on to creating orphans for fun and profit. Orphan children for adoption. The Hearthfire DLC introduces an adoption system that allows you to provide a home for up to 2 children. Honor Hall Orphanage in Riften houses several children who need families, and you can find homeless children like Lucia in Whiterun or Sophie in Windhelm who are available for immediate adoption. This is a wholesome feature that lets players roleplay as caring parents who give unfortunate children a second chance at life. However, the game's mechanics also allow for a significantly darker interpretation of the adoption process. If the parents of any child NPC in Skyrim die, that child will be moved to Honor Hall Orphanage after approximately 3 to 4 in-game days. Once they arrive at the orphanage, they become eligible for adoption just like any other orphan. The game does not distinguish between children who lost their parents to natural causes, accidents, or premeditated murder. This creates an opportunity for players who see a child they particularly like and decide that the most efficient path to adoption is killing the child's parents and waiting a few days. The process requires stealth and planning. You cannot be witnessed by the child or caught by guards. because the child needs to trust you enough to accept adoption later. Some players attempt to justify this by targeting parents who are objectively terrible, like Lemkill in Rorikstead, who verbally abuses his daughters Sissel and Britti. But even in cases where the parent is abusive, you're still murdering someone in front of their children and creating immense psychological trauma. Plus, let's be honest, most players aren't killing abusive parents. They're killing perfectly innocent civilians like Hror and his wife in Markarth because they want to adopt their daughter Gralnuk. Let me be clear about what's happening here. You saw a child, decided you wanted to adopt them, and your first solution was murder rather than literally any other option. The orphanage already exists and has children who need homes. Lucia and Sophie are homeless and available immediately, but apparently, those children weren't good enough for you. So you planned and executed the murder of a child's parents, hid the evidence, waited for the child to process their grief and be shipped off to an orphanage, and then showed up as their savior, offering them a new home. This is serial killer behavior, dressed up as charity work. The child has absolutely no idea that their loving, new adoptive parent is the person who murdered their mother and father. Congratulations, you created an orphan so you could play house. Next up is wiping out an entire family because someone paid you to do it. Murder the Shatter Shields. The Dark Brotherhood quest, Morning Never Comes, begins when you pick up a contract from Muri, an alchemist assistant at the Hag's Cure in Markarth. She wants you to kill Alain Dufont, a Breton bandit who betrayed her trust. The backstory is fairly straightforward. Muri used to live in Windhelm and was close friends with the Shatter Shield family, a wealthy clan of Nord merchants. She fell in love with Alain, who used her to get close to the family and learn their security measures. Alain and his accomplices then robbed the Shatter Shields of goods worth thousands of septums. The family, devastated by the theft, blamed Muri for enabling it and exiled her from Windhelm in disgrace. She wants revenge. The main contract is to kill Alain Dufont, who is hiding out with his bandit crew at Raldptar. This is actually a reasonable target. Alain is a criminal, a thief, and a manipulative sociopath who ruined multiple lives for profit. Most players have zero moral qualms about putting an arrow through his skull. However, Muri also gives you an optional objective. She wants you to kill Nilsaini Shattershield, the innocent daughter of the family that exiled her. This is where the quest crosses from justified vengeance into something significantly darker. The Shattershield family has already suffered unimaginable tragedy. Their daughter Frigga was murdered by Calixto Corium, also known as the Butcher of Windhelm, during the Blood on the Ice quest. The family is still grieving this loss when you arrive with your contract. Nilsine Shattershield had nothing to do with the robbery, nothing to do with Muri's exile, and nothing to do with Alan's betrayal. She's a completely innocent woman whose only crime was being born into a family that blamed the wrong person for their misfortune. If you complete the optional objective and kill Nilsine, the consequences unfold over the next few in-game days. Tova Shattershield, the family matriarch, cannot process the loss of both her daughters. She leaves a suicide note explicitly stating that losing 2 daughters is more than she can bear, and then takes her own life. You can find her corpse in the Shattershield house, along with the note detailing her unbearable grief. Clan Shattershield goes from a thriving merchant family to a broken father in less than a month. Torbjorn Shattershield loses his wife and both daughters because you wanted Muri's bonus reward, which is a necklace with a minor enchantment. 3 people dead, an entire family destroyed. And your motivation for the optional contract. Muri wanted petty revenge on an innocent woman, and you wanted slightly better loot. The main target deserved death, but Nilsine and Tova didn't deserve any of this. This is one of the few quest chains in Skyrim where your actions directly cause an NPC to commit suicide, and the game makes sure you see the consequences of your choices. Next up is betraying someone who trusted you completely. Sacrifice a follower. Boethia's Calling is a Daedric quest that becomes available once you reach level 30 and discover the Cecellum of Boethia in the mountains east of Windhelm. Boethia is the Daedric prince of conspiracy, deceit, assassination, and betrayal, which should give you some indication of what kind of activities this quest will involve. The objective is straightforward. Bring any follower to the Pillar of Sacrifice, command them to touch it, and then kill them with the Blade of Sacrifice while they're trapped and defenseless. Boethia will then possess the corpse of your murdered companion and speak through it, demanding you fight and kill her cultists to prove your worthiness. Your reward is the Ebony Mail, a unique piece of heavy armor that provides poison resistance, muffle, and a poison damage aura. Now, let's discuss what you're actually doing here. These followers swore an oath to follow you anywhere. Lydia famously offers to carry your burdens. Fayendal teaches you archery. Janassa fights by your side for a modest fee. Every single follower in Skyrim will walk into dragon lairs, bandit fortresses, and Dwemer ruins filled with mechanical death machines because you asked them to. They trust you completely and without question, and you repay this loyalty by leading them to a ritual sacrifice site, commanding them to touch a pillar that traps them in place, and stabbing them to death while they're completely unable to defend themselves. The follower trapped on the Pillar of Sacrifice cannot move, cannot fight back, and cannot escape. They're frozen in place by Boethia's magic, waiting for you to murder them. Some players attempt to minimize the moral weight of this decision by choosing followers they believe deserve it, like Rallis Sedaris from the Dragonborn DLC, who enslaved and killed Dunmer miners. Others hire a random mercenary from a tavern, specifically to sacrifice them, as if premeditated murder for the sole purpose of ritual sacrifice is somehow less evil than killing someone you've actually adventured with. But let's be honest about what most players do. They sacrifice Lydia. Lydia is often the first follower players acquire. She's been with you since you became Thane of Whiterun. She's fought beside you through countless dungeons and dragon attacks. And when you need a sacrifice for a Daedric prince whose entire sphere of influence is treachery and betrayal, you take her to an altar and stab her in the back. Literally. The ebony mail you receive as a reward is an artifact whose very existence is predicated on betraying your friends. The armor's origin story is betrayal, and you obtained it through betrayal. Boethia specifically rewards treachery as a virtue, and you demonstrated your qualifications perfectly. Your companion followed you through dragon fights, bandit camps, and Dwemer ruins filled with mechanical spiders and automated crossbow turrets. They carried your excess dragon bones when you were over-encumbered. They died and respawned repeatedly because you couldn't be bothered to give them healing potions, and you repaid them by leading them to a remote mountain shrine and murdering them for armor. Extraordinary, I know. Moving on to torture. Torture, Logrolf. The House of Horrors quest begins when you investigate an abandoned house in Markarth with vigilant Tyrannus, a priest of Stendar. The house appears normal at first, but quickly reveals itself to be the domain of Molag Bal, the Daedric prince of domination, enslavement, and corruption of mortals. Molag Bal traps both of you inside the house and forces you into combat with Tyrannus, who has no choice but to attack you under the influence of the Daedric prince. After you kill the vigilant in self-defense, Molag Bal reveals his true intentions. He wants you to rescue a priest of Boethia named Logrolf the Willful, who is being held captive by Forsworn in one of 6 possible locations throughout the Reach. The objective is clearly labeled as a rescue mission, and Logrolf himself believes you're there to save him. Logrolf is an elderly priest who desecrated Molag Bal's altar years ago in service to Boethia, Molag Bal's rival Daedric prince. He refers to himself as the mighty Logrolf despite his current situation as a prisoner. When you arrive at his location and free him from his binds, he assumes you're either sent by Boethia or operating independently to oppose Molag Bal. He's suspicious of your motives, but eventually agrees to follow you back to Markarth because he believes he's going to cleanse Molag Bal's altar once and for all. You escort him safely out of the Forsworn camp, travel back to the abandoned house, and deliver him directly to the Daedric prince who wants him destroyed. The moment Logrolf enters the basement and approaches the altar, Molag Bal traps him in a magical cage. A rusty mace appears in your hands, and the Daedric prince gives you explicit instructions. Beat the priest, not kill him. Beat him. You strike Logrolf repeatedly with the rusty mace while he's trapped and defenseless, unable to fight back or escape. Eventually, he collapses and dies from the beating. But Molag Bal isn't finished. He resurrects Logrolf and commands you to beat him again. The elderly priest, already broken from the first round of torture, must endure a second beating until his spirit is completely shattered, and he begs for mercy, submitting to Molag Bal's will. This is the most graphically explicit torture sequence in Skyrim. There is no combat. There is no self-defense. You are beating a defenseless elderly man to death, watching him get resurrected, and then beating him to death again until he's spiritually broken and begging for the mercy of a final death. Molag Bal's dialogue makes his intentions clear. He will bend to my will or be crushed by it. The torture is prolonged and sadistic specifically because Molag Bal wants Logrolf humiliated and dominated before he dies. Only after the priest submits completely does Molag Bal allow you to kill him for good. The rusty mace you used to beat Logrolf transforms into the mace of Molag Bal, a powerful weapon that absorbs stamina and soul traps your enemies on kill. The weapon is literally empowered by the suffering you inflicted. You rescued a priest from imprisonment by Forsworn, gained his trust, lured him to an altar under false pretenses, and tortured him to death twice for a Daedric prince whose entire existence revolves around domination and enslavement. You cannot complete this quest without torturing and killing Logrolf. If you kill him before Molag Bal is satisfied, the quest fails. The only path forward is prolonged, sadistic torture. Next up is murdering 10 of your friends. Empower Ebony Blade. The Whispering Door quest in Dragon's Reach leads you to the Ebony Blade, a Daedric artifact of Mufala hidden in the basement of the Jarl's palace. Mufala is the Daedric prince of lies, sex, murder, and secrets, which should give you some indication of the blade's intended purpose. When you first obtain the weapon, it functions as a two-handed sword with 11 base damage and an absorb health enchantment of 10 points per hit. This is mediocre at best. However, Mufala speaks to you through the blade and explains that you can unlock its true potential by killing people who trust you. Specifically, you must kill 10 NPCs who have a positive relationship value with your character. These are people you've helped with quests, people you've traded with regularly, or people who simply like you enough to greet you as a friend. The game determines friendship through a relationship value system. Any NPC with a relationship value of 1, 2, or 4 counts as a friend for the purposes of powering up the ebony blade. These are people who say things like, "You've been a good friend to me," or "It's a fine day with you around" when they see you. For every 2 friends you kill with the blade, Mephala speaks to you and increases the weapon's absorb health effect by 4 points. After 10 total murders, the blade reaches its maximum power of 30 points absorb health per hit. Mephala congratulates you after each upgrade with dialogue, like their tears shine the ebony to a sharpest gleam, or I can feel their heartbreak swelling in my blade. Let's examine the typical victims. Farengar, secret fire, the court wizard you've done research for. Banning, a priest you helped with a simple favor. Narfi, a homeless man you helped find his sister's remains. Isolda, an aspiring merchant you assisted with mammoth tusks. Benur, a companion who followed you into danger. These are people who trusted you. They helped you when you needed information or assistance, and you helped them solve their problems. They greet you warmly when you enter their homes or businesses, and your response to their friendship is systematic murder spread across 10 separate incidents because you want a sword that absorbs slightly more health per hit. The blade's power is literally fueled by betrayal and deceit. Mephala's sphere of influence is specifically about undermining trust and intimacy through treachery. When you complete the 10th murder, she delivers her final message. At last, my blade is returned to its full glory. Now go forth, child. Continue your tiny subversions against the orders of trust and intimacy. You have demonstrated, through 10 separate premeditated murders, that you are willing to systematically betray everyone who trusts you for marginal stat improvements on a weapon. Some players attempt to minimize the moral weight by targeting expendable NPCs like followers they don't use, or quest givers whose functions can be replaced. This is still premeditated murder of people who trusted you. You've just added calculation to your treachery. Other players go on murder sprees through entire towns, killing every friendly NPC they can find to max out the blade as quickly as possible. The blade has infinite charge and never needs recharging, which is some compensation for the fact that it cannot be improved at a grindstone and has lower base damage than most in-game two-handed weapons. You murdered 10 friends for a sword that's objectively worse than a Daedric greatsword you could craft yourself. Congratulations, you systematically betrayed 10 people who trusted you to make your weapon slightly better. And now we arrive at the most controversial choice in Skyrim. Kill Paarthurnax. After you defeat Alduin at the throat of the world, Delphine and Esbern, the last surviving members of the Blades, approach you with a demand. They want you to kill Paarthurnax, the ancient dragon who leads the Greybeards at High Hrothgar. Their justification is straightforward. Paarthurnax was Alduin's lieutenant during the Dragon War thousands of years ago, and he committed atrocities against humanity under his brother's command. The Blades are an organization sworn to hunt dragons, and in their view, Paarthurnax's past crimes warrant execution regardless of his current behavior or his contributions to humanity's survival. Let's examine what Paarthurnax actually did. Yes, he served Alduin during the Dragon War and participated in the oppression of mankind. But thousands of years ago, he betrayed Alduin and taught humans the Thu'um, the voice, which allowed humanity to rebel against dragon rule. Without Paarthurnax's betrayal, humanity would still be enslaved by dragons. After helping humans win the Dragon War, he retreated to the throat of the world and spent thousands of years meditating on the way of the voice, teaching peace and restraint to generations of Greybeards. When you arrive at High Hrothgar, he personally guides you, teaches you the clear skies shout, and helps you learn Dragonrend, the only shout capable of bringing Alduin down from the sky. Without Paarthurnax, you cannot defeat Alduin. He is directly responsible for your victory. Paarthurnax is peaceful and philosophical. He poses no threat to anyone. During your conversations with him, he reflects on his own nature with a famous line, "What is better, to be born good, or to overcome your evil nature through great effort?" This is a dragon who understands his own capacity for cruelty and domination, who actively fights against his nature every single day, and who has chosen peace for thousands of years. The Blades are demanding you execute someone who has spent millennia atoning for their past crimes, and who has done nothing evil in living memory. They're asking you to kill a reformed person because of actions taken thousands of years ago when he was under the control of a tyrant. The consequences of killing Paarthurnax are immediate and permanent. The Greybeards, who taught you the basics of the Thu'um and guided you on your path as Dragonborn, refuse to speak to you ever again. They will not help you meditate on words of power. Their leader, Arngeir, makes it clear that you have betrayed everything they taught you about the way of the voice. Meanwhile, the Blades offer nothing of tangible value in return. There is no special reward, no unique weapon or armor, no additional quests, just the approval of 2 zealots who care more about ancient grudges than present reality. You murdered a dragon who spent thousands of years atoning for his past, who saved humanity from extinction, who personally taught you the shout that allowed you to defeat Alduin, and who trusted you completely when you approached him at the summit of the throat of the world. He didn't fight back. He didn't try to escape. He accepted his death because you, the Dragonborn, asked for it. And you did this because 2 people with outdated oaths told you to. Paarthurnax is one of the only named dragons in the entire game who helps you instead of trying to kill you, and you repaid him by murdering him for no reason other than satisfying the Blades' revenge fantasy. In conclusion, Skyrim offers players the freedom to make truly despicable choices that range from petty cruelty to genocidal treachery, and you should absolutely play it. If you enjoyed this PowerPoint presentation, I made others, and you should absolutely check them out. Peace on planet Earth.